lecture 36. From last class we have started the frequency response. At that I mean, if I would like to analyze the circuit in frequency domain, then what can be done? For that we have seen the behavior of the poles. If the poles lie on the imaginary axis and they are in pair, then what is the effect that we have seen? That is, if the pole, let's say this is my pole 0 plot, okay, any poles are lying on imaginary axis like this, then what is the effect that we have seen in the complex explain? If this is sigma and this is j omega, what is the effect? That magnitude will be infinite at omega is equal to that whatever the frequency I have, let's say j omega 1, and this is minus j omega 1. Okay, so I'll get it the maximum magnitude at omega is equal to omega 1, and what is the effect in phase change? There will be the sudden jump of minus 180 degree. Okay, so this is 180 degree and this will be 0 degree where at omega is equal to omega 1. Similarly, we have also seen what if the zeros will lie on the imaginary axis. So if zeros will lie on the imaginary axis, let's say at value j omega 2, so what is the effect? At omega is equal to omega 2, your magnitude will be 0. Okay, that way will be the magnitude response. Similarly here also. And what about the phase? There is a sudden jump of plus 180 degree at omega is equal to omega 2, wherever the 0 lies here. Okay, so here what I observe that omega is equal to omega 1, I am getting the maximum magnitude and for this at omega is equal to omega 2 I am getting the 0 magnitude, right? So I don't want this infinite or 0 magnitude. If I want, let's say like this, the behavior of my network is like this, then what can be done? I don't want the infinite magnitude, but I want some finite magnitude at one frequency omega is equal to say omega 1. So this can be attained by slightly shifting your pole location from imaginary axis to this point on this S plane on the left hand side of your S plane, and mind you that this real value, that is suppose sigma 0, this is my minus sigma 0, so this has to be very less than that of the imaginary value which I have, imaginary part of the imaginary component of the root. Okay, so if I have the pole at minus sigma 0 plus minus j omega 1, and if sigma 0 is very less than omega 1, then what I will get? I will get the very large magnitude at omega is equal to omega 1, and this will be the good behavior of band pass filter. Okay, similarly if 0 also I will shift slightly towards left, and let's say my 0 will lies at minus sigma 0 plus minus j omega 2, and here note that sigma 0 again is very less than omega 2, then what will happen? I will not get the 0 magnitude at omega is equal to 2, but it will be slightly touched to 0. Okay, this will be the case for the 0 when it will lie on minus sigma, when it will be on minus sigma 0 plus j omega 2, where sigma 0 is very less than omega 2. And what will happen with the phase shift? So there will not be exact 180 degree phase shift, but there will be the approximate phase shift like this of minus 180 degree for the poles, and for the zeros what will happen at omega 2? There will be the approximately plus 180 degree phase shift of plus 180 degree phase shift, if this is the condition that 0 will be minus sigma 0 plus j omega 2, where sigma 0 is very less than omega 2. Okay, this way we have seen. Then let me see one more, the two terms let me introduce you, that is the minimum phase response, not response, minimum phase function, and what is non-minimum phase function. Okay, so how is the pole 0 plot? Okay, so minimum phase function is that where I will have the pole 0 plot is like this. Say this is my sigma, this is j omega. Okay, and suppose I have the poles like this. These are the locations of the poles, and these are the locations of the zeros, for example. Okay, and let me take it any point on j omega axis. Say here, let me extend this, any point on j omega axis. Let me draw with the pen. Okay, and let me calculate what is the magnitude and phase for this particular response, for this particular network function. Say I will call this is my f1 of j omega. Okay, so what is the magnitude? That is all the magnitudes from all the zeros to the interested point, and these are the angles. Okay, so suppose angle is phi 1 here and this angle is phi 2 here. Okay, similarly for the poles also. So this is what the angle theta 1, and similarly for this pole also to the interested frequency wherever I have been selected, and this will be angle theta 2 with magnitude. Say this is m1, m2, this is for 0 it is n1, and for this 0 it is n2 with angle phi 1 and phi 2. Okay. Now what I will do, I will draw the another network function, or the pole 0 plot for another network function, which is the sigma, and this is j omega. The pole locations are same here. Okay, so the pole locations are same which we have been selected for f1. It will be same, but only what I am changing is these zeros where it were lying on the left hand side of plane, I will shift on the right side. Okay, with the same the value of real and imaginary part. Similarly for this also. Okay, so imaginary part remains same, only what is happening, instead of this 0 which was lying on the left hand side, I have shifted to the right side. Okay, with the same value of the real part. That is, previously suppose it was lying with minus sigma 1, now here it is plus sigma 1. Okay, and imaginary part will remain same, everything remains same, only what I have done, I have slightly shifted, I have shifted the 0 location from left hand side to right hand side. Okay, and same I would like to evaluate on the same, on the j omega point. Suppose this is my j omega point where I am interested. Okay, and now I would like to calculate the magnitude from all the poles and zeros. So this is, say, one angle is same theta 1, this will be with some magnitude with angle theta 2, what I call this is m2, this is m1. Similarly I will calculate for zeros also. Okay, and what is the angle with real axis? It will be phi 1. Similarly for this also. Okay, with phi 2 and some magnitude, it is n1 and it is n2. Okay, so what I can see here is that the magnitude for both, they say this is my f2 of j omega. Okay, so what I can see it here, that magnitude of f1 j omega will be same as of magnitude of f2 of j omega. Okay, because the magnitude will remain same, doesn't matter whether it is negative sign or positive sign. Okay, where is the change? Change with the angle. So what I am saying, these are my acute angles here. Okay, and what about the angles made by zeros in this f2 network function? Here obtuse angle. Okay, so what I can say, angle of f1 will be less than that of angle of f2. Okay, so this is the effect, that is the angle magnitude will remain same, but only what is the change with the angle. That's why the name is given that this is minimum phase network function and this is non-minimum phase network function. Okay, now suppose the poles and zeros are now mirror image of each other. For example, next I will see that if I have pole 0 plot, this is sigma, this is j omega. Okay, fine, and now I'll say that the poles and zero locations are mirror image of each other. That is, this is one pole location here, this is second. Similarly 0 is here and other pair it is like this. Okay, so now if this is the network function, how will it work? Okay, or what is the behavior of it? So if I'll find out the magnitude, what will happen from all poles? What is the magnitude? So magnitude, this n1, let's say this is n2, m1 and m2. So n1 and 2, m1 and 2 divided by, means the magnitude of all the zeros to the interested frequency divided by magnitude from all the poles to the interested frequency, say j omega, the magnitude will be always 1. So here, right? So here the magnitude will be always 1 and it will be 1 for all omegas. Okay. So it will be 1 for all omegas. But what is the angle? So the angle will be different. Okay. So here what will happen? This obtuse angle minus this acute angles. Okay. So this is basically this kind of network function is called as all pass function, where I am passing all the frequencies. Okay. So with this, let me review the terms. What is minimum phase function? Minimum phase function is that where the zeros will lie on left hand side or on j omega axis, called minimum phase. I can say that way also. Okay. So minimum phase is that where zeros will lie on left hand side or on j omega axis, called minimum phase function. And what is non-minimum phase function? Where zeros will lie on right hand side of S plane, called non-minimum phase function. Non-minimum phase function contributes more angle than minimum phase function. Okay. Also for both, the vectors drawn from a pole to any point omega 1 on j omega axis is identical in magnitude with the vectors drawn from its mirror image, okay, to the same omega 1 frequency. So magnitude response must be constant for all frequencies. Also, it is to be noted that poles must have to lie on the left hand side, and this kind of response is generally used for the phase correction of the phase distortion. Generally it will be occurring in transmission line systems. Okay, so this you should remember that poles must have to lie on the left hand side of S plane. So again we can make one more conclusion, is that all pass functions cannot be driving point functions or driving point emittance. Why it is? Because if say driving point emitter z of s, I have s plus 1 plus j, s plus 1 minus j over the same thing, s plus 1 plus j and s plus 1 minus j. So this is my driving point impedance, for example. So here what is happening? Poles where poles, say this is minus 1. Okay, so that 0 will lie on right hand side. Okay, so this is s minus 1 plus j. So here what is happening? Zeros are lying on the right hand side of S plane, poles lying on the left hand side of S plane. But if I will take the admittance, then what will happen? The admittance, due to this, what will happen? The poles would have been gone to the right hand side of S plane. Okay, and with this, what will happen with the network? Your circuit will become unstable. Okay, so all pass functions must have to be a dimensionless transfer function. That is, it means it should be the transfer function voltage ratio, or it should be the transfer function current ratio. Okay, so these are some terminologies that we should remember. Okay, now with this, let us start with the topic, that is single tuned circuit. So what is single tuned circuit? Single tuned circuit is a circuit where there is one inductor and there is one capacitor. Okay, and they are connected in such a way that they resonate. Basically this is the single tuned circuit. If it is a double tuned circuit, what will be? There will be two inductors and two capacitors, that way. Okay, so they are connected, that is one inductor and one capacitor connected in such a way that they will resonate. Okay, and what is the meaning of it? That is, the reactance of inductor is positive and reactance of capacitor is negative. Okay, such that they show that there is no reactance at a particular frequency. Okay, so basically this is the phenomenon of resonance, where the reactances are equal to the inductor and capacitor. Okay, so this is the phenomenon of resonance, and resonance means your tuned circuit. Okay, so tuned circuit, now I can define that is, which is that circuit which has the resonance at a particular single frequency. So this can be formed by one inductor and one capacitor. Also, it is to be noted that in order to have the resonance, or in order to design the single tune circuit, we have to have a circuit in such a way that it will resonate, right? And resonance will happen when and only when the pole locations will be complex conjugate. Okay. So here we are interested for the pole locations which are complex, which are having a complex conjugate pair. Okay, if the poles are real and distinct, or if the poles are real and repeated, that is of no interest for me to design the single tune circuit. Okay, also for single tune circuit, it is very essential that to obtain a band pass response like this, to obtain a band pass response with center frequency. Okay, so what have we told? Okay, we now told that in order to design the single tune circuit, your pole location must have to be on the left hand side of S plane. Okay, and this has to be a complex conjugate pair. Okay, so this is sigma and this is j omega. So suppose these are my complex conjugate pairs or poles. Okay, and suppose this part is my alpha and this is my j beta, this is my j beta minus j beta. Okay, and the angle contribute from here is theta, and what is this magnitude? We said it is omega n, which is undamped natural frequency. Okay, so what are the roots we have taken here? The roots will be minus alpha plus minus j into beta. Now my aim is to express this roots in terms of zeta and omega n. So that also we have seen during the pole locations of the second order circuit. So what is this part in terms of zeta and omega n? So basically alpha will be your minus zeta omega n, right? So this is your zeta omega n, and what about this part? This part will be omega n square root of 1 minus zeta square. Then only this omega n will come. Okay, so zeta we know it's a damping factor and omega n is your undamped natural frequency. Okay, so with this, what is undamped natural frequency in terms of alpha and beta? It will be basically alpha square plus beta square. What is zeta? Zeta we know it is cos theta. Okay, and in terms of alpha, if I would like to write, so what will be zeta? Zeta will be alpha divided by square root of alpha square omega square, which is nothing but your cos theta. Fine, and similarly I can obtain for sin theta also. So sin theta will be this beta upon omega n, and what will be beta? Beta will be omega n into sin theta, and beta square will be omega n square into sin square theta. Okay, and what is sin square theta? It is 1 minus cos square theta. So which also I can write beta is equal to omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square. This is already we had defined here. Okay, so now if this is the case, then let me again write the polynomial from this roots. Okay, so what are the roots? Minus alpha plus minus j beta. So let me obtain the polynomial. I'll say the characteristic equation. Okay, which is, let's say, polynomial P3 for example. Okay, so what will be s plus alpha plus j beta and s plus alpha minus j beta, because poles must have to lie on the left hand side of s plane. Okay, so it will be s square plus 2 alpha s plus alpha square plus beta square. So this will be my required polynomial. Okay, and so same thing I would like to write in terms of zeta and omega n. So what it will be, s square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square. Okay, and from that we know zeta will be alpha upon omega n, that also I can write, and omega n is square root of alpha square beta square. I mean there are so many ways by which I can express zeta into alpha, alpha into zeta, zeta into omega n, something like this according to your convenience. Okay, so now what is my characteristic equation? S square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square, which is 0. Now let me know what are the roots of it. So P12 will be minus zeta omega n plus minus j omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square, as we have seen already. Okay, and why I am taking this complex conjugate pair? Because I am interested only for complex conjugate kind of poles here. Okay, so now With this, let us draw one more time the pole locations. It will be better to draw it, to analyze it graphically, so that we'll get it more information from it. Okay, so suppose these are my complex conjugate poles, and say this is my theta angle. Okay, now what happen if this is theta? Okay, so what happen if theta goes to pi by 2? Okay, so if theta tends to pi by 2, then what will happen? Will what will happen with the pole? So pole will move on the j omega axis, right? So here, if theta tends to pi by 2, then poles will go on j omega axis. Okay, so that time it will be like oscillator or undamped behavior. Now what happen if theta tends to 0? So if this theta angle tends to 0, then what will happen? Poles will be real and repeated, or it will be real and distinct, so that I will get it over damped or critical damp of behavior, sort of behavior. Now let me see the magnitude response for this various values of zeta. For example, if theta is pi by 2, what will be my value of zeta? So we know zeta is equal to cos theta, so zeta will be equal to 0. Okay, so when theta is pi by 2, at that time what will happen with the poles will lie on the imaginary axis, and at that time what will happen? I will not have a damping, so damping is 0, means zeta is equal to 0, that's why it is undamped. Okay, when theta is equal to 0, then what will happen with zeta? Zeta will be equal to 1, and at that time your poles will be real. Okay, and if it is zeta is greater than 1, then the poles will be real and distinct. Okay, so now I would like to know how is the behavior for these different values of zeta. So what may be the different values of zeta here? One may be zeta is equal to 0, second may be zeta is less than 1, where I will get it the complex conjugate poles. Third will be zeta is equal to 1, where I will get the roots real and repeated at the zeta is equal to, and theta is equal to 0. Similarly, when zeta is equal to 0, then angle is pi by 2, and at that time poles will be on the imaginary axis. Okay, so for this values of zeta, I should know what is the magnitude response of my particular second order functions. Okay, so let me write my second order function. It will be f of s will be omega. This is the standard form of the second order equation, or in any system you take it, electrical, mechanical, or what sort of. If I am analyzing the second order system, the standard form is like this: omega n square upon s square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega n square. And basically we have already seen how we have the denominator part. Okay, so okay, now this is my standard second order equation, and this let me write in terms of j omega. So it will be omega n square divided by minus omega square plus 2 zeta omega n j omega plus omega n square. Okay, and this we can write as omega n square over omega n square minus omega square plus j 2 zeta omega n into omega. Okay, fine. So with this, can we draw the magnitude response roughly at least? So let me find out what is the magnitude at omega is equal to 0. So what is the magnitude of f of j omega when omega is equal to 0? So when omega is equal to 0, this is 0, this part is 0, omega n square upon omega n square, so it will be always 1. Okay, so magnitude at omega is equal to 0 will always be 1. Okay, and now magnitude response will vary as I am varying the omega, and also it will vary according to the value of zeta which I have been taken, which I will take it. Okay, so for example, when zeta is less than 1, then what will happen? Then we'll be getting the peak at some frequency. For example, let me draw the magnitude response for various values of zeta. So suppose this is omega, this is f of j omega. So when zeta is less than 1, then how will be the magnitude response? It will go, and some peaking I will get it. Okay, so this kind of behavior I will get it for zeta is less than 1. When zeta is equal to 0. So what that time what will happen, this part will be 0 and some frequency at omega is equal to omega n, one particular frequency I will get it the infinite magnitudes. Okay, so suppose this is my one frequency where I will get the infinite magnitude like this. It will not touch here. Let me erase this. So how will be the response? It will be like infinity, and then again after it crossing omega it will start decreasing and reach to 0 at omega for large value of omega, or omega tends to infinity. Okay, now what about the case when your zeta is less than 1 over? So what will happen if zeta is equal to 1? So if zeta is equal to 1, how will it be? No, I am sorry, because magnitude will not be start from 0. I am sorry, this is not correct. Is it? This is not correct, because at omega is equal to 0 we said that magnitude has to be 1 always, as already we proved it. Okay, so this is not the case. So at omega is equal to 0, for any case your magnitude will be 1. Okay, so for zeta is equal to 1 it will start like this. Now it is correct. Okay, this is for zeta is less than 1. What we said for zeta is equal to 0, it will go, this is some omega n frequency. So at this frequency what will happen, this will go with infinite magnitude and then it will be 0, somewhat like this. Okay, now what if the zeta is equal to 1? So there I will not get the peak, but there I will get the flatness sort of thing here. Okay, which is monotonically decreasing this way. Okay, so it is somewhat like this. And when omega is greater than 1, then what will happen, there is no peaking at all, like this I will get. Okay, so at omega, at zeta is equal to 1, I will get it maximally flatness, and when zeta is greater than 1, the behavior will be like this, there is no flatness at all. Okay, so this will be the behavior of the magnitude responses for various values of zeta. Okay, so here we can say that when zeta is less than 1, then I'll be getting the peak at some frequency. No? And when zeta is greater than 1, there will be no peak, and there will get it the maximally flatness kind of thing. Right? Okay. So now what next? Now we are interested for zeta is less than 1, where we will be getting the finite peak basically. So here our aim is to obtain the frequency where I will get the maximum magnitude, that is where I will get it the maximum value of the magnitude response. Okay, so once I know the frequency where I am getting the maximum magnitude, that is nothing but my resonant frequency, and I will say that at that particular frequency resonance happen. Okay, so let us look from the circuit perspective. So if I will take the series RLC circuit, there are basically the various ways or various combinations or various forms of single tune circuit which can be formed using RL and C, maybe in series, maybe in parallel. Okay, so suppose I am taking one of the form for RLC like this. I have resistor, then there is an inductor, and with that capacitor has been connected. Okay, this is R, say SL, and 1 over SC. Okay, so this will be VI, this will be say minus plus, these are the polarities, and suppose this is V0. Okay, so let me write what is my voltage ratio transfer function. So what is my V0 of S upon Vi of S? So V0 of S will be this current I of S into impedance 1 over SC, and what is I? I will be Vi upon R plus SL plus 1 over SC. Okay, so what will be V0 upon Vi of S? It will be 1 over SC, divided by R impedance, total impedance, which will be R plus SL plus 1 over SC. And then if I'll write, so this SC and S will get it cancelled, and what I'll get it will be RCS plus LCS square plus 1, and let me make it leading coefficient of S is equal to 1, so which is 1 over LC S square plus R upon LS plus 1 over LC. This is basically standard form, we have already developed it. Okay, so what is my voltage ratio transfer function? It will be 1 over LC into 1 over S square plus R upon L plus R upon LS plus 1 over LC. Okay, and this I can write as omega n square upon S square plus 2 zeta omega n S plus omega n square. If I'll compare, I'll get it this in a standard second order pair, and which is also in the form of this 1 over LC. I can say K, and there will be two roots. So suppose one is S plus P1, second will be S plus P1 complex conjugate, because for what purpose I am interested? Now for what thing I am interested? I am interested for the complex conjugate pair. Okay, so now let us find out the roots for this. Okay, so roots are P12 is minus, already we did it, minus R upon 2L plus minus square root of R square upon 4L square minus 1 over LC, and I want this as a complex conjugate pair, so that also can be replaced by minus R upon 2L plus minus J, and this I'll make it negative, so I'll just shift it to my 1 over LC minus R square upon 4L square. Okay, so if 1 over LC is less than, greater than R square by 4L square, then what will happen? Then we'll get it the complex conjugate pair. Okay, now what here I am interested to find the frequency where I will get the maximum magnitude for this voltage ratio transfer function. Okay, so there are so many ways. Now in this particular thing we will analyze it using the graphical representation, so that we'll get it some more insight into it. Okay, so to get it, let me again define this as minus alpha and this as plus j beta as roots. Okay, and let me draw the pole 0 plot. Like this. So this is my sigma, and this is j omega component of S plane. Okay, and suppose this is one pole which is which location is minus alpha plus j beta. Similarly, in order to get the real coefficient, I should have the complex conjugate pair, right? So for that there should be one more pole which should be at minus alpha minus j beta. Okay, and now I would like to find out what is this voltage ratio transfer function. Let me call it as f of j omega, which is v0 of j omega upon vi of j omega. Okay, so now let me calculate the magnitude response of f of j omega at some interested frequency, let's say omega 1 or omega. So suppose this is my interested frequency, say j omega. So to calculate the magnitude and phase response, what I have to do? I have to find out what is this vector length. Okay, so suppose this is my, let me draw first, and one more from here I can draw. Not able to draw properly, so let me draw like this. Okay, so this is say my magnitude m1 with angle theta 1. This is say my magnitude m2 with angle theta 2. This is m2 basically. Okay, now I would like to find out what is the magnitude at omega. So I am taking any point on j omega axis and find out the magnitude at this j omega point. Okay, so we have drawn the vectors from poles to j omega selected point. Okay, so what is my magnitude of f of j omega here, so I'll get it some gain k over magnitude m1 into magnitude of m2. Not this way, this magnitude m1 and next is m2. Okay, and what we know, this is my, how much is this length? This will be, this is basically omega and this is beta, so it will be omega minus beta. And what about this full length? It will be, this up to here it is omega and this is beta, so full length will be omega plus beta. Okay, so that now I can write m1 here. M1 will be how much? It will be square root of alpha square plus, now imaginary component is omega plus beta its square. Okay, and what will be m2? M2 will be alpha square plus omega minus beta square. Okay, so now I have to find out the frequency at which I'll get it the maximum peak, or I'll get the peak. Okay, so this can be done by differentiating it. First let me write what is my magnitude at frequency omega. So this will be k over m1 is square root of alpha square plus omega plus beta square into second root is alpha square plus omega minus beta square. Okay, so now I have to find out the frequency where I will get the maximum magnitude. So for that, what I have to do, I have to differentiate it. So before differentiating, let me remove the square root. So that can be done by taking the square of it, so which will be k square over alpha square plus omega plus beta square into alpha square plus omega minus beta square. This will be in multiplication form. Okay, so from that I can write k square, and let me solve this, so which will be alpha square plus omega square plus 2 omega beta, this is plus beta square, this one part, and second part is alpha square plus omega square plus beta square minus 2 omega beta is second part. Now let me do the multiplication and find out the whole thing. So let me take it the denominator part here. So this denominator part, if you solve, I have got it this way. So alpha raised to 4 plus alpha square omega square minus 2 alpha square omega beta plus alpha square beta square plus alpha square omega square minus 2 omega cube beta plus omega square beta square plus omega raised to 4 plus 2 alpha square omega beta plus 2 omega cube beta minus 4 omega square beta square plus 2 omega beta cube plus alpha square beta square plus beta square omega square minus 2 omega b cube plus beta raised to 4. So from here so many terms will cancel, and the resultant remaining terms will be alpha raised to 4 plus beta raised to 4 plus omega raised to 4 plus 2 alpha square omega square plus 2 alpha square beta square minus 2 omega square beta square plus omega raised to 4. Okay, that is already done. Okay, so now this will be this much only. Okay, so now I'll write the magnitude of f of j omega square, which will be k square over omega raised to 4 plus 2 omega square, which will be, I have obtained, you can check it out from this equation. Okay. 2 omega square alpha square minus beta square plus alpha raised to 4 beta raised to 4 plus 2 alpha square beta square. Okay, and then what I'll do, I'll try to differentiate this term. Okay, so this also can be written as alpha square plus beta square its square. Okay, so this also let me write k square over omega raised to 4 plus 2 omega square alpha square minus beta square plus alpha square beta square its square. Okay, and now let me differentiate it to find out the maximum value. So I will differentiate this with respect to omega. So what will be this? This will be minus 2 omega square of first. This also I can write as, because I am differentiating with respect to square, so I will try to bring into this form omega square its square plus 2 omega square alpha square minus beta square plus alpha square plus beta square its square, so that now it will be easy for me to differentiate it. Okay, so it will be now 2 omega square plus it will be 2 times alpha square minus beta square, k square will be as it is. Okay, and into 0 because there is no term with omega, and divided by its square, which will be omega square its square plus twice omega square alpha square minus beta square plus alpha square plus beta square its square raised to 2, that is equal to 0. So basically this is the differentiation. Now what will happen, this will vanish, this will, k square values, negative term will vanish. So now resultant will be 2 omega square plus 2 times alpha square minus beta square, which is 0, and from that I can write omega square will be equal to beta square minus alpha square. So at this value of omega only I will get the maximum magnitude. Okay, so what will be this maximum frequency? Omega m will be, I will write omega m, which indicate the frequency where I am getting the maximum magnitude, and let me call it as the maximum frequency, which is square root of beta square minus alpha square. Okay, so this is basically called as the maximum frequency. Now this also we can express into zeta and omega n. So this we can express into zeta and omega n. Okay, so this also can be done as omega m square, which is equal to beta square. So beta is omega n into square root of 1 minus zeta square its square minus alpha square. So alpha square means zeta square omega n square. So it will be omega n square minus omega n square zeta square minus zeta square omega n square. So which I can write as omega n square minus 2 times zeta square omega n square, and which will be omega n square into in bracket 1 minus 2 zeta square. Okay, so this way also we can express into maximum frequency omega m will be equal to omega n square root of 1 minus 2 zeta square. Okay, so now this is the relation I have got it. So omega m I can find out once I know zeta and then natural frequency, or if I know what is the real and imaginary component from the pole location. Okay, so with this I will get it the maximum frequency. Okay, so with this we stop here. From the next class we will see the remaining part. Thank you very much.